Don the Auction Professor. Today is critique time. We had some names that were put in that were not searchable, that I could not find, so I'm not sure if you missed something again, or there was a word or a letter mixed up, or something wasn't typed in correctly. But I use the seller search criteria to search for your store, so your seller name is what I am using. And that is literally what most people are going to use. So just keep that in mind for next time around. But we did pick a name. It is Mermaid Treasure. She has been with us for a while. She has put it in before, so it is her time. I did pick her, as I said, randomly. Actually, my employees picked it, but we just put some names in a hat, as I have done before. I don't want any favoritism. I'm not trying to pick somebody specific. Luck of the draw. So if it wasn't you, and you still are interested, we will be doing this again, depending on how the video, if everybody's happy with it. Just a few no's and do's and don'ts about this. I filter every single post that comes on. So if you're going to say something derogatory about the store, anything in there or anything about that, I'm just going to delete it. I filter every post nowadays, because people leave just awful things. You know, I don't care what you want to crack on me because you don't like my beard or whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter to me at all. I have a button that I can hit, and half a second later your post is gone, and I never have to worry about it. I have very tough skin. I was a manager, regional manager. I handled many big businesses. I don't care what somebody says to me. It doesn't affect my life. I don't take it personally. I don't take it emotionally. So again, I don't really care what your feelings are about me or what I say or anything else, or about the people on here. If I'm talking about somebody, I'm just going to delete it. It doesn't matter to me. You're just wasting your time putting those posts up there. So, you know, that's your call. But again, I'm not going to allow anybody to downgrade or dog on somebody on this channel. So, you know, everybody has their own store level. And again, this isn't related to Mermaid Treasure. This is just overall aspect on this. You know, everybody has their own store level, their own skill level, their own time frame into the business. So, you know, everybody's working at a different level here. So just keep that in mind. I know I hear all the time, you know, you're at a different level than most people. Yes, I am on a different level than most people now, but I wasn't. I started at 0. So, again, everybody starts from scratch. So, we're going to address this. Everything I say in this video today is just literally business-oriented. Nothing personal. No attack on anybody. No attack on Mermaid Treasure's store. Nothing at all like that. It is personally what I personally would do if I had your store and that store was mine. So, again, that's all I do when I do a critique. Nothing personal whatsoever. I talk just how people talk to me boss-wise in the past. I've talked about Lou in one of my videos specifically. Straightforward is how I am. You know, I don't worry about feelings or anything else when it's business oriented. Feelings cannot come into play when you're doing this as a business. The business is what matters. You know, in corporate America, feelings do not come into play for what is going on. And that's why many companies are successful, because they can understand the difference between personal and actually business. Personal is one aspect and business is another. Leave your personal hat at the door when you come to business and put your business clothes on and do business. That's it. Nothing else. Don't keep any of your emotions or anything else on your shoulder. Only worry about your business when it's business time. So a lot of people can't separate the business from their personal life. So anyway, we're going to go over the screen and we're going to talk about Mermaid Treasure store and things that they could prove. Good things that I saw in there. Quite a few things up. Pretty good store all around. And again, everybody has a different take on this. Another seller or another YouTuber may come up and say that I'm wrong on this. It is what it is. You take from it what you can take from it. Everything I say isn't written in gold. There are other ways to do so many different things. But this is what I would personally do. So we're going to go to the screen and we're going to talk about Mermaid Treasure.
Okay, so here is Mermaid Treasure. Overall impressions, it's very good. They've got a lot of items up. Prices, honestly, are very reasonable across the board. Some of them I actually would have raised some of the prices. There are some that I've picked that I would actually lower as well, too. But overall, and I judge this by what I appeared to see. It looks like the listing practices that Mermaid Treasure has been doing, they've changed throughout the process. Just looking at some of the bin numbers that they have and how some of the older images look versus some of the newer ones. So some of what I may be saying and maybe have already have been addressed or changed. But again, overall, photos are good, decent close-ups, decent items. Pretty much across the board here. Not really big issues whatsoever. I've picked out a bunch of individual listings. Again, there's a lot of good stuff in here. Good images. Some items here I've zoomed in, and I'm going to show a few of these items like this Rolodex here and just discuss a few issues that I personally see. Again, anything I'm saying is what I personally would do having this as my store. Again, nothing meant intentionally or to insult or offend anybody whatsoever. These are literally business recommendations that I personally would make if it was me, and I would want these made. So, anyway, overall, it's an impressive looking store. Quite a few items. Again, as I said, I do have some other zoom ins here. As you see, I've got a bunch opened up here. Just like something like this, I wouldn't show the ruler. I would zoom in on the main image there. And on something like this, you might need to just show the whole glove. You can't zoom in on everything. Let's see here. Like this here, I would zoom into either a illustration in the book or a bigger section, because you're actually cutting off the words when you can't tell what the cover is or what even part of it you're looking at. It's fine to zoom in on many things, but if the zoom in doesn't show much, you're defeating the purpose of doing a zoom in. So anyway, I think there was a couple I was just going to discuss on here. Now these are good photos here too. Sheets are not a problem because that's what it looks like you're using. I've used them for a long time just because I'm cheap, and you're looking at the item. The only thing I could say is on your main image, like I use the Amazon example, you want at least 80% of the photo to be of the item, 80% or more. And you might be borderline here, but either way, it's a decent looking photo. You can really see what the hat is. So, not a real complaint whatsoever there. This one here, it's hard to say which one you should have done because you've got two. You've got the emblem on the side, which looks like it's actually maybe printed in the hat. Maybe it's a separate patch. It's hard to say from the photo, but anyway. One thing I would zoom in on, or when I do something like this, I didn't look at the main photo. I'm just looking at this section here the first time. I wouldn't cut off the nose of the plane or any of the plane itself, because that's the key thing you're wanting to show off here. But, overall impressions, very good. Nice mix of items. You've got wings and things like that. Let me use this to open up this one here too, just to see if that's what that is. But anyway, again, it's a pretty good broad range of items here. You've diversified fairly well. A lot of postcards and things like that. Again, you got to just realize that some of these are obviously going to be long tail items. I use some of your numbers here. If this is the bin number, I always put that at the end. So just FYI. And like the word vintage, I'd put that at the end too, somewhere in there. It's going to show up in a search, but like if someone's on their phone, you don't want to clutter the beginning of the title with anything other than the key things you want someone to see, because if the beginning of the title is stuff that's unimportant to them, it's not going to give away what the item is as much. Like on this one here, I'd move the 35mm slides to the back, and I would just put slide if it's one. Just slide. Don't use the word slides. And then just put airplane, airport, runway. And if you have a city location, great. If not, I would leave it at that. And then I would zoom in on this. And one other thing on here, it's actually red border is what you want. If you're putting red in there in like a film, anything that's film, people might think if they're doing a search that it's actually turned red, because film turns red because of, the type of material it is when it's old or exposed to certain things. So sometimes you'll see a film that's literally went to the red side. So just be careful way you word that. Red border is what I would put on there. And if you had to leave something out, it's hard to say what you'd want to leave out of this. Maybe I would have left out TWA and at, and then put border with the space you're saving from, because that's 6 or 7 characters wise. That would give you plenty to put the word border in there if that was an issue. Overall, though, it as I said, it looks very nice. Nice mix of things. I'm not going to criticize, because we've got photos similar wise with some of this type of items that have a little darker background. Not an issue here either. Let's see here. And again, prices look, honestly really good. They look like they're right about where most everybody prices these at, like even the coffee mugs and stuff. So, I can't say that that's an issue here either. This one I would have zoomed in a little bit more and chopped it off. So especially this mark, you can see where your border is gone or your background's gone. Just me, it just looks a little better in my book. You could have literally cut part of this off as long as you had the whole word cardinal in there and right above the bird itself, the cardinal. But overall, I don't see any issues, especially with the clothing or anything like that. That's typical. Somebody might tell you it needs to be a little brighter or something like that. This one looks a little washed up. But again, I have similar issues getting the lighting just right on clothing. The best thing for clothing is natural light, and I just don't want to mess with it. So again, I'm not a clothing person anymore. We started off at clothing, sold a bunch of it, but we're moved on. But overall, it's a good store. You've got a nice mix. Some good items across the board. Again, your prices are really, really reasonable. Some of them, they seem a little low, like some of the junk drawer lots. Just there's other areas you can put them in, and stuff like that. In fact, I think let's do this, and then we'll come back. Let me just point out some issues here. Again, no offense whatsoever. This is literally taken as a business discussion. I am treating this as if I'm a boss, and I'm going to come in and discuss what I personally would say I think should be fixed based on my experience. So, like this one here. Now, I would have used this one for your main image. Now, all you had to do is take this image, and you could have zoomed in here. The only other thing I would say is you're missing a photo of the back. You've got the both of the fronts, but if someone's going to be a true collector and want to spend $89 on something, you need to throw another photo in here. Show the pin on the back. If it's marked gold filled, make sure you show that as well too. And there's another example down here. Now this is a much better. Now I wish this person would have had a white background, but this shows off the same pin. This is a gold version. It says yours maybe. I don't know what it says in the back, so just keep that in mind. People know that collect these that there's gold versions and there's gold filled versions. Now, the gold marking on yours, if it isn't, you can't see it. It could be underneath where the pin is, and you may only see like a dash mark of like the T or something. So just keep that in mind, because some of those are marked and horribly marked, and you might see a worn off spot, or it might be under the solder mark from where the pin is soldered to the back of the metal or the facing of the logo itself. So just an FYI. I'm not saying go back and shoot these all over or anything like that. Personally, I would switch these two around to make this your main photo. As the zoom in. It kind of defeats the purpose of the zoom in if it's the second photo, in my opinion, because you're trying to make that the center of the photo here. I know it's good to show it this way too, but anybody seeing the zoom in right here is going to instantly know that that's what it is. You have it in the title as well too. So anyway, yeah, and I might move the GM up to the front a little closer. Again, as I said, you want the keywords to be up front. I maybe wouldn't put vintage up front. Again, if they're searching from a phone, you got to think that maybe it's cut off like in the middle of assembly on what they actually see. Just depends on how their phone handles it. So I try to do it universally the best I can. I have several different phones here, family members and other people, and I've looked at things on different phones just to see, again, because you want a generalization on what works best for all phones, not just a couple brands. So, and again, I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but that's what I would look at on this one here too. Let's move on to the next one here. This one here, the only reason I pulled this one up here, you don't have to take as many photos as you have, truthfully. This is good here. I zoom in. If this is the same one, I wouldn't have worried about two on the same one. I can see this zoom in here and this one. Good to have the sticker. Again, wasted photos unless you've just used the same one. I wouldn't put so many. It takes more time to upload the photos or take extra photos on those couples. You could have eliminated 3 photos in here. Again, not an issue. This is just something might save you some time. So nothing wrong with the listing or anything like that. One thing I would honestly suggest is moving this from the home decor. I would put Scotty in the title too. I know Jack Russell is what it probably is, but I would drop Scotty in there, and I would move this to collectibles, the animals, and then dogs, and I think there actually is a Scotty or Jack Russell Terrier category. On something like this, there's thousands of these types of, this wording up on eBay at any given time, and if you limit it to collectibles, animals, dogs, and then the breed, those persons can just go to there and find it, because dog breed, people that collect or have a certain type of dog and that's all they love, and they'll keep buying the same kind of dog if when the dog passes, they'll be stuck on that, and that's all they buy. So you don't have to muddy up the waters, just go straight to the source on dogs. Now I've learned this over the years because we've got the same type of dogs, and I would pretty much only buy or own the same type of dogs. They're a part of our family. We have two full-blood Chihuahuas, and they've had puppies once. We won't do it again, but anyway. So that's just something to think about. Any of these animal ones, I always go straight to the collectibles animals section. When you have them under the posters and prints, which it obviously isn't. It's a nice item, don't get me wrong. Price, I'm not going to judge on it either way, because dog collectors will spend money for stuff, regardless of what the price is or what it's worth. So just keep that in mind. And I've looked at your feedback, real good feedback, 100% really good. The only thing I don't see is you're not top rated plus. I didn't look at your return policy. That would be a deciding factor. And again, that's your call on that. You're 100% now, so top rated plus might boost you up just a little bit more on that. So again, I don't know where your level is. I haven't looked into what it takes these days to get it, honestly. I mean, time-wise. Maybe there's a time or something. I don't remember. But I'll look into that before I get a chance to discuss it. Maybe I'll discuss that on live show too. But again, decent item. I just move it if it was mine. Again, these are all what I would personally do. Now, this is a very common card. I wouldn't have put this one up so high. Just personal opinion. It's like a $5 or $6 card, honestly. $7.99 was probably about the max on something like this. Any of these, like just plants and stuff, it's not a real photo. I wouldn't price them up that high. So just FYI. Same. Here's another one. Anything redwood. Just type in redwood or giant tree, and you're going to see that these average like $10-15. Now, I know overpricing some cards is great, but you got to look at what the market's going for in general. And these, even on auctions or even on buy it nows, they don't go for a ton of money. It's a nondescript. It's Washington lumber, so it's not California. California would be more desirable than Washington. Nothing wrong with the card, but this is probably like a $14-15 card, maybe $18.50. I would at least drop it down to $30, if not in that range or less. Personal opinion, I don't think it would sell at this high at all. It's just too much for a standard common type card. Now again, I say type because any of these trees, I would call it a type. Let's move on here. Now this one here, this is another one that's overpriced. In my opinion, you'll see comps from this showing like the headstones and stuff like that, closer up images. It's an early card. Nothing wrong with the card at all either. I would say it's fairly early. Now that it does, I would call this a dividing line. The wording is the dividing line. This is probably 1920s-ish, I would guess. It's a good one. It's nothing wrong with the card. I just think you're not going to sell it at that high price. More reasonable would be like $34.50, and then see what happens from there. With obviously the way you have a best offer and such forth. And again, on shipping here, I try to never go over the $3.50 mark. You must have 5 ounces or more. I don't put any postcards more than 4 ounces, and I always do calculated shipping. Not that a quarter is a huge difference, but when you're buying a $10 postcard, a quarter to some people is a big difference. I'll even get people complaining about a quarter. So I make mistakes, so I've done this myself. So just FYI, I'm not saying rush back in and change a bunch of listings or anything like that, but just pointing out what I would personally address. This is way overpriced too. Now these are like $7 or $8 cards. All these new ones here. This is real new, unused good. I'm not saying it won't sell, but it's never going to sell at $63.56. Just FYI. And I think you had another one in that same range. Yeah, right here. Again, these are really new cards, so they're not huge movers. And I would say this is ones you've had just by looking at your numbers, had up for a little while. I would have literally blocked out all the background here on this one. A nice picture. I mean, it's a nice image. It's something that looks interesting to do personally. But anyway, it's just too high priced. I'm sorry, I must have had it open twice. Now here's one thing that you're going to have to watch out, and I've seen this mistake. I've made it when I first started. Brand new, unused, unopened, undamaged. Now, I think this was actually taken out. Here's one that's open that has the plastic around it. So, I think somebody's pulled this out. I don't know specifically on these, but I've opened up Rolodexes back in the day when they were new, and you used to have to put the cards in there yourself. I don't know if that's the case. It used to come in a pack that was like shrink wrap sealed, and you just open those up and then have to put them in there because the company, when they're sealing, isn't taking the time to manually stuff these into the thing. I could be wrong, but either way, it's not unopened. So I would probably put other on this one here. Just FYI, you don't want to get somebody irritated because you can see right here, here's one in the plastic. And they also have a little sealed bag of something else too. And if yours doesn't have that other sealed piece, then you can't put new and you can't put unopened. Usually these are taped shut. There's a little round circular piece of tape usually up at the top. They can be peeled off, so it could have been peeled off and you may not even see any remnants of tape. But just an FYI, watch it on the new comments. That could hurt you at some point if the person comes back and says, hey, that's not really new. Here's another one to compare it to. And actually, as I said, here's one right below it here with a sealed little packet. I'm almost sure they all came with like little labels or something too, because I remember these in the offices. And this looks like it's the same one. So again, yours isn't new unopened. Yours is new other. I would say it's probably missing an insert in the plastic bag, if this is the whole thing. New open would mean that I would take a picture and not even open the box so you wouldn't see it. You'd only show the outer box. So just FYI, if you did that on Amazon, you could literally get into a little issue with that because, again, it's not technically unopened or imperfectly new. I would almost put maybe new other would be the key one on this one here. Not saying it's a bad item. I don't know on the price on this one. I didn't look up the price on every one. I was more interested in the key aspect that it's not unopened. So anyway, it's probably generally wise in that area. Now things like this, would never mark up a huge amount because you're not going to sell them at a marked up rate. Just because there's a bunch out and there's a limited number of people who are buying these, they're not usually going to be buying these as a collectible. They'll be buying it as something they may use. Put callback cards or something in it. Who knows? Now this one here just for the photo quality itself. Now you've got a ton of photos up, or is this a booklet? Photo booklet. Yeah, I would probably, I don't know if there's a better image in here or not, but I would get a better picture. You've darkened it off on the picture, and I'm sure it's much brighter in real life than what's shown. What looks like you've got light blocking you off over here. If you're cross lighting it or only have one light, the cover is blocking off some of it. Let me go back to the photo I'm talking about. Yeah, because you can see on the left half of the image, it's the cover that's darkening the image. So I would change your lighting on here and get a better picture. I know what they're doing. They're blasting it so there's no avalanches, literally, because that's the Canon. I've seen them do it in person actually once or twice in my life. But anyway. Let's see. Again, I don't know the price on this one. It might be a little high. It may not be a little high. It's an oddball item. So, anyway, it looks like a decent item. Let's move to the next one. Yeah, I would zoom in on this one. I would have cut off the ruler because you can't really tell what's going on in the ruler just by the way it's cut off, in my opinion. It's not laid flat, so it's hard to say if it actually is 4 inches or what. And you're not even up on the 0 point. So it's better to put it off the 0 point down farther and let them sit there and calculate it as long as they can see the whole thing. But I wouldn't have put that the main picture. This would have been my main picture, this zoom in here. This would have been key. This is a good zoom in. I just would have moved it as the key picture here. Yeah, and this is probably a radio station. He looks familiar, actually, the gentleman down on the right. I doubt it's Roger Miller, but it looks like something like he's probably the DJ. I would look that up a little bit more. It probably is a radio show. You're probably right. It may be before that even, too. This looks more like a 40s, maybe even late 30s, 40s, possibly. It might have a better take on it, too. I wouldn't say it's movies either, so just cautious on the category, I guess. Yeah, it's hard to say on that one. Either way, it's you should move the photos around in my book. This one here, looking at it from where I'm at and in Texas, I think due to the size on this, your shipping might be too low. I would check that out again. Price may even be a little too cheap on the price. I can't say for sure. As again, I haven't looked up every one of your items. I was more interested in addressing the specifics on the shipping. And I see people sometimes have a problem with shipping. I would take a scale, weigh this, and then weigh a couple boxes. You know, you're going to pack it in one, and then use another box as the a weight guesstimate on the shipping supplies, and then go from there. Maybe your calculations are wrong or not, because it looks like you're obviously doing calculated shipping. So just FYI. Maybe there's something I'm missing there, but usually the shipping is what kills you on some of these, just because of the size. If you go over a certain size, you have to pay like $10 extra just because of the size of it, depending on what you have. So just an FYI. Nothing wrong with the item, nothing wrong with the price or anything like that. Photos decent. It's hard to take photos on some items like this, really to get them to show off very well. This one here, another tree issue. This one's not going to sell that high. This is probably like a $17 max, $18 price is what I would put on it with the best offer and take whatever. And then you've got your shipping at $125. So I don't know if you've changed up on your shipping plan or what, but you will not get tracking at $125. Just FYI. My general rule on things is to have one shipping plan for the same type of material. So if every postcard should either be $350 if that's what you're going to do, or $125 if that's what you're going to do. But you know, I shoot for the tracking. I don't care if I lose some sales on it. I can track everything, and I'm not going to have any issues later on. It's not going to get bent, because if you throw this in just an envelope, just chances are it could get bent. So anyway, you know, look at some of the pack videos I have, and you'll see why I say that. So anyway, let's go on. Same one. I must have opened a couple twice. Here's that dish I was talking about. I would zoom in on the Monte Carlo section, just like what I'm showing right here, and that would be my... Well, here you go. You've just got the order mixed up here. I might put this as the main image here. I'm not going to judge on the price on this, because they're all over the place on stuff like this. So older the better. I didn't look at the manufacturer. 50s, 60s probably. Maybe a little older than that. Limoges. It's a good name. So don't get me wrong, it's a decent looking piece. Some of the tourist Limoges don't go for as much. So, but again, you never know. I would probably leave it up higher and just see what happens for a little while. Again, here on this one here, I'd back up or do something, or show something specific or something. I would show the cover on this one, honestly. I would get rid of this one and put the cover, just because this is nondescript. I only try to zoom in on things that have a really good image in them or something, and this just isn't a good image. The cover itself would be more an example of showing it. On collectors like this, they're going to be looking at that, what the cover looks like, the condition of the cover itself. So, you know, and... I don't know, I might change Department of Army and just put U.S. Army, to get rid of the military, and put Korean War era. You know, that's probably going to be a better piece. I would back that up and change the year to back to the Korean War. Most people aren't going to be even looking for this book, a Korean War version, in the newer section. So just keep that in mind. There is different sections, and there is a Korean War section, and I do believe 59 falls into that Korean War section. So just FYI, it would sell better as of, you know, in that section. Especially because if I'm looking for something, or a military collector, they want specific years. They collect pre-certain date. They collect World War II only, or World War I only, or pre-1900. So just FYI. Now this one here, you need to change the wording on this one. This one's a good item. I would put die-cut pocket watch, trade card folder. You don't even have to worry about, well... Daughters miss meat, mince meat. Get rid of now is the time to try it, if that's the case, if space-wise, and put die-cut pocket watch, and then show the pocket watch for the first image. Show this right here, or at least this. One of these here, not the one with the ruler. Ruler's fine, but show this or this as your main image. You don't have to do all of these images. Don't spend all the time to do all of these. Maybe this one here might be a better one for the images here. If you've got it shown like double here, you're taking too much time to show too many images here. This one I wouldn't have showed more than 4. This one I probably would have used one with the ruler, and then maybe this one here as the main image. Maybe only 3. Yeah, maybe 3 I think I would have put on this one. This one, and then 1 total front and back. But again, make the pocket watch the key thing here. I would not doubt that if you change it and put pocket watch, put die-cut pocket watch in the front, and then get rid of now is the time to try it. And then you can leave the rest of that in here. That would be what I would do. So anyway, and I'm almost sure that if you change that around to pocket watch, die cut pocket watch trade card folder at the end, maybe you might have to get rid of New England, but that's fine. Daughtery's minced meat's going to be what sells it with the pocket watch. That pocket watch is going to be the key on that. Like die cut pocket knives, I always sell. If it's like an advertising and it's a pocket knife, it's gonna sell. But anyway, price is fine, shipping's fine, category, trade, you need to change this to Victorian trade cards. Collectibles, advertising, Victorian trade cards. That's where this is going to sell much quicker, much better, and with die cut pocket watch in the beginning. Now here's another one that you'll want to address. This is a reproduction. It says down here actually reproduction of authentic turn of the century fan. Now this is a reproduction. As a reproduction, you can't put Victorian hand fan in there. I wouldn't put Victorian. I would put repo if you're going to put the word Victorian. Otherwise, I would just put vintage advertising fan. And I would probably put this in the advertising section. Definitely not clothing. This would be paper or something, Ethereum, or advertising would be better in my opinion. Let's go on to the next one here. Now this one here, this one is not a postcard, so just keep an eye on stuff like this. This would go in the photos. Obviously not District of Columbia either, so price is a little high on it as well too. But watch these sections. That is a big thing that I see with a lot of people, not just this store here, but a lot of people. And even like your shipping charge, again, you've got something that would go for $3.50 and your shipping is off. So you've got stuff across the board where the shipping is all over the place. Personally, my personal recommendation, again, as a business decision, I would set up shipping policies so you can literally instantly look at it and have a shipping policy, and you can change all of your listings with the shipping policy in just a matter of a few moments once you've set up the shipping policy. Now, you may have to do some moving around when you first set it up to move stuff into certain policies and change things around. It may take an hour or so to fix some of this, but once you have it, you can instantly just click. You can multi-edit all of your shipping with the shipping policy as long as you calculate the weight. You can even do it without calculated weight, but it's so much easier doing calculated weight. So just FYI, look into the policies if that's something you want to do. I don't know what your thinking is on this, so again, just watch out. You've got prices all over the board on shipping for the same exact weight. This is still under 4 ounces, so it would still be the $3.50. So just FYI. Again, uniformity across. And something else I wanted to talk about too, and I almost forgot. Put a paragraph down here saying a little something about it. Always happy to combine shipping. Up for auction is a vintage photo. I work hard to make sure all my customers are happy. Look at a couple sellers who have one up. I try to do the same one for every single listing I have. Put something down in there and keep it uniform. Buyer pays postage. Please see the images above for a better idea on description. Something else in this listing. I literally have like 4 sentences down at the bottom. Follow me. You can put links down here as well too, that they'll take you to your store and things like that as well too. So when they're down here, it'll give them a little something else, and another benefit to hit down here, or they can click on that as well down here too. But again, put something more than just this basic condition as shown. You need to put a little more information on there, because if you miss anything, it's on you then. And I'd also, on photos, I would do 3 if you're going to do it. I personally do 2. I'll take 2, but I'll put 3 up. You need a copy of the back. I know even if it's blank, people still want to see that. So I always, even if it's a blank back for anything, I always show that as well too. Just FYI. I can't say specifics on the price on these. I haven't looked up any comps to compare it to. Could be a little high, but again, it depends on what the comps are on something like that. And there will be comps probably of something similar. Maybe not this, but, there are similar images like that. Now this is another one here. You've got, let me see here. Good photo here. I would put this in a different section. I would put it in the pre-1940. This is 1920s or 30s. Put it in the older section. Most definitely an early one. This is a nice image here too. It's a good topic as well. I might put like oh geez, let's see here. Well, I guess that's not bad, but I might crop it like up here and then down here as the main image. Maybe you've got that in here. This one cuts off too much of the sign. What you'd want is the sign and the cars, where you can read the whole sign and see the cars. Good image though, but put it in the older section. But again, on this, I see you got free shipping with any 3 cards. Again, this isn't on all your listings. When I'm doing stuff like that, I would only do it through the marketing page, not paid, but I would do like across the board, like a discount or something, because it doesn't show up otherwise. People aren't going to see it when you have it just written down here. And I would kind of crunch this together and make it look more official as like a paragraph. And as I said, literally, you've got it only on some listings. So I would only do it through the marketing tool, so that way they'll see it up in the title, even up here, big in highlights, if that's what you want to do. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but you'd want to do some kind of cross-the-board deal on that through, promoted markdowns or something along that line. And you can do things like that. But anyway, let's move on. Here again, I would zoom in on the item itself. You may not have the ability to do it. You can actually flip the image over too, depending on your software, so that the TWA is right side, facing the right direction instead of reversed. And again, on here, it's a red border. Actually, you have it right here. I would use this as your key main image. Rotate it, flip it. It's a little grainy, so people might wonder if it's grainy. If it's not that grainy in real life, put a little comment on that. Again, I would put more information down here. They're not interested in most of the people in where it was found or anything like that. I would put in as shown condition or something if that's the way you want to do it. And then just put a little statement. I try my best to do, to make everybody happy. Just some statement, a paragraph, as I said, across the board that every listing has. And you can just sell similar from that point on and have it all. I'm not saying go back in and change 1,000 listings, but at some point that's what I did, and we went back in and fixed some of them. But most of them all have the same thing nowadays. So, the majority of my listings. Again, this is what I would do. This one here, I would move to the Disney section as well, too. And then I would use you actually have a good one here. I would use this one as your main image, truthfully. Everything else was fine on it, even the price. I would just put it probably in the Disney collectibles section. Let's see here. You got, again, here, way too many photos. I would only put 3. A zoom in, a main one, and again, you've got the zoom in on the wrong image. So this one should be first, then this one here, and then the end one. And you just don't spend all that extra time with the rest of these. This is probably, I would probably put this at like 1850 if it was mine, just FYI. Horses are going to sell this. I'd put the word trade card in the back. Horses, I would get rid of again, this is what I would do. I'd put lovely horses, WMH Weld, watchmaker, and jewelry, Lockport, and then trade card at the end. Just, again, you want what's going to show up on a phone, which is usually the first sections of the title. Nothing wrong with the item or anything. Price, as I said, is just a little too high, in my opinion. Ruler-wise, I wouldn't show. This one's just not the best one for the main image. I wouldn't zoom in on individuals. I would have zoomed in on, like, cut it off with the guy or girl and the donkey and left it at that, and put Victorian trade card at the end again. Curry combs. Our spring curry comb. Let's see here. The spring curry comb. I would put literally spring curry comb because you're missing part of it. Ensures mercy and delight to all animals. And I'd put like animal comb in the title so they know more what it is. If you want to date, this is 1880s, you can safely just put 1880s. You don't need the word paper in there earlier or either. Again, I'm guessing this is something you had up, so you probably changed this. And I would move this most definitely to the Victorian trade card section. Collectibles, then go to advertising. I think then it's merchandise, and then Victorian trade cards. And there's just a general Victorian trade card section that I put everything in, so I don't have to move stuff around. One section, I don't care if it's coffee or not. I put it all in the Victorian trade card section, and then I'm done. I don't have to worry. So every card that's a Victorian trade card goes in the exact same spot for us. And I can just sell similar from any single Victorian trade card I have up. Again, like on the slides, not bad. This one's faced right, and this is looks much better than that last one. So if the condition on the last one is actually like this, I would switch it around. Just FYI. And then I would use this as the key image here as well too. Yeah, that's what I would do. I think that the color is, maybe it's taken, towards twilight or something. I guess that's possible too. Again, it's red border. If they see red, they might think that it's turned red, because this one is a little dark, so they could actually think that. And if this is your bin number, I always try to put those at the very end. Just like 35mm slide, I wouldn't worry about picture. I'd put TWA plane on runway, 35mm slide. You can put the 1950s in the front, would be okay, in red border, as I said. This is not, I would probably put this in the slide section, honestly, or in the photographs, if it was me in transportation section. Or at least, there's this photo section, I would put transportation in photo. It may still sell in the section. I just seem to have more luck in the photos. Again, I could be wrong on that one. You might want to just, if this doesn't have any traction in so long, switch it up into the category. It's not going to cost you anything different, because it's still in the collectibles. And these don't sell hardly ever. I've got probably 150 of these Worcester's balsam. You could drop it down to like $5.99, and that's probably about the best I would put. Maybe $7.99 at the very, very best. But these are a couple dollars at the most they ever sell for. They're small. This is smaller than a business card size. Yeah, there you can see it right there. It's a pretty small card. Now, if this was a much larger card, like a postcard size, that would be a different story. And just rule of thumb, Victorian trade card section, I don't put the 1880s to 90s. I always do it to a 10-year period. So this is circa like late 1878 to newer. So 1870s to 80s is what I would put. But anyway. Now, technically, this is not a photo booth photo, just FYI. This is probably a regular photo. Somebody cut it down and put it on here. Probably the studio that took it, because that's usually who did it. And what you need is a copy of the back. I always do that. I always put a photo of the back. The other thing I can say is this looks like it's a photo frame. Let's see the size on this. Yeah, that's way too big for the most part, a photo booth. And this is probably circa 1910 or 1920 by looking at the image straight off. You're too new. I would back this down to 1910, 1920. You can keep photo booth in here. It might draw more attention to it. Chances are that it is not diamond-shaped, the photo itself, so just keep that in mind. You can see up there on the angle to the right of his head, that shadow, that just tells me that it's a matte over the photo, so they probably didn't crop the photo. If this isn't glued down fully, there might be some markings on the back of the photo. Don't rip anything apart. If it's glued, don't worry about it. This one's not going to sell for super high unless there's something cool on the back, which I would imagine there's not, but always show the back on these. It's fine, I think, with what you did for the main photo as well, too. I wouldn't have done the 3. This one would have just been the back, and those would have been my 3. Just my opinion. But let's move on here. Again, I just picked some random items out of here. I didn't go through everything. I looked through several hundred of your listings, a good 20-25% to get a good idea. Let's see. This is California, so Oakland, so just keep that in mind. This would be my main picture if that was the case. And on slides, usually I show front and back of the slide, just the cardboard at least, because people want to know what's on that. 1950s, again, I'd move up to the front. I'd put Oakland Airport, Western Airline, airplane, 35mm slide. You don't really need the word picture in there. And again, it's kind of hard to say on this. I think there is a photo section on the airlines, which I might have done, or the 35mm slide section in the photograph category. Again, this might be fine. If it doesn't sell, that's what I would do. I would definitely move it. Let's see. Again, I would zoom out, show the cover of the book on these. There's nothing attractive on the zoom in. That's the key. Do attractive images. This one would have been fine as the main image, I would say. It gives them a good idea. Condition overall, real quick judge on what it is. Air Training Command, let's see, 1963. Keesler, been there myself. So you could put 1963 in the listing. This is Vietnam War section, so that's what I would list this as. And as I said, you can look up here Roman numerals, so you can safely put 1963 as the date, I would say. It might say something else on the inside because it might have been a redo on it, but it even has a 56-65 on there, so that would probably, my guess is this is Vietnam War era. So that's where I would put it. It would sell better as a Vietnam piece other than the 1970s to 80s piece, truthfully, right off the bat. And this one here, the main image, I would zoom out a little farther. Looks like you're cutting off part of the card. Yeah, it looks like you've cut off part of the right side of the card. Just watch out. Whenever you're showing something, you want the entire card. Nothing should be cut off on the edges when you're showing the two key images. It's fine the way you got here, but on this one, I would have backed up a little bit more so you can see more of the ship. And this is Cleopatra's Needle, if you're unaware of it. It was shipped over. It's in, I think maybe the Smithsonian owns it or something. But that's the key on this one here. It actually says it now that I see it. But I would put the needle and the ship up to the spool with the 8 on it as the key image. It doesn't matter if it shows most of the card as that. You just want the key stuff, the stuff that's the exciting part of the cover. And this one, the thing in this is Cleopatra's Needle. It's an obelisk if you're not familiar. I think we've even seen it in person. Now, here's another issue. These good items, price-wise for two of them is pretty good, but you will sell these better selling them individually, and I'll tell you why. Because a collector's not going to need two of the exact same item. You want two collectors that want this item. So what I would do is I would drop it personally to Red Zowies, and this is Diablo, if you're unaware. This is Diablo is the name of this vehicle. You don't need the word collectible, so you can get rid of that. And here I would put Red Lines, Hong Kong, Zowie, 1960s. I don't remember the year on this, but it's like 60-something. I can't make it out. Your bottom's the photo's not very clear. You can get away with that photo if that's the case, but as I said, I would definitely sell these each. You are going to sell them better. I would guess you'd get $10 a piece for them that way. This way, it's going to be a long haul. You're going to get somebody lowballing you because they don't need two of them. Chances are someone will probably buy this and then turn around and resell one of them to get part of his money back. That's what I personally would do if it was something I collected. I wouldn't need two of the same car, especially if it looks like they're pretty much in the same condition. So just FYI. Again, nothing wrong with the items at all. They'll probably get most of these. I get $10 a piece for the Zowies. I've showed them in hauls. Every one of mine are gone. Every single one. I do not sell Zowies in lots ever, unless they're just a bunch of ones that have problems, or the lowest end ones on the lot. I might sell 3 or 4 together, but not two of the same ones. You're killing your sales a little bit on something like that. Let's see where you put it to. That's fine. I would say that's a legit category and everything. So anyway, let's move on here. Now you've got a lot of good stuff in here. It looks like this would be something really good. Your price is really, really reasonable. So it might be a little too low maybe on one side of this. And I might not say put it in the scrapbooking section. I might say put it in vintage Inferium, like 1950s or before, and put nice mixed lot, something like because it looks like you've got a lot of nice stuff in here. I just don't think you have it marketed quite right, I guess. Or maybe the image, maybe this would be even a better image, this one here. Or even something like this. You're too far back with what you can see, I guess. Maybe it's the way it's laid out. It's hard to do paper, I'll have to admit. So I don't know what to say on the photo. I might show a closer up on something like this one here. Might be something better. And maybe put advertising in there too or something if that's what's in here. Because it looks like there's some advertising in here too. It doesn't look like a bad lot. The price is really cheap, really reasonable in my book. Again, I might have put, personally, if it was mine, put more on it. I'm not saying to do that. That's going to be iffy on that one here, too. I don't have a track record on this specific type of item, paper-wise. I usually don't I sell lots, don't get me wrong, but I don't sell mixed lots in junk drawer lots. I usually sell junk drawer lots of mixed toys or mixed just hard goods in general, like a pipe with some buttons or some keys or paper mixed in with that. That's what I do. Again, nothing wrong with that. This one here, again, you don't need all these photos. 3 photos would have been fine. 3 images. A close-up, the main one, and then a back one with the size. Antique, vintage. You don't need both antique and vintage, in my opinion. Dates, you could be right. It's hard to say on this one here. I would guess it's a little later, but it may not be. It's hard to say. But on your condition-wise here, too. Please ask questions. Shipping. See photos for condition. Now, someone might have bad eyes. Their computer might not be good, and there's a wrinkle. There's a bend and a crease on the bottom leftover search. So, I would list stuff like that when you're selling stuff in this condition. If this was a $20 piece of clothing and it had a tag that was half unstitched, you would list it. That's the same basic principle by not talking about that little ding in there. I would try to list that. And I would list it up here so they can instantly see that. A lot of people on their phone won't go down and click because you have to click a separate button to look at the description. A lot of people don't mess with that. Anybody looking online is going to. So again, I would have that one statement down here, like a paragraph. You can look at what I have and just kind of get a gist on it. I've copied mine off of, a generalization of, dozens of other people. Because I looked at dozens of people's statements in their listings before I came up with something that I thought looked okay. Again, research on everything. What was with this one? I don't think there's anything wrong with this one. You got a crease on there, but again, I would have listed the crease other than see photo. You don't need all these zoom-ins here on the individual faces. I wouldn't worry about that. Again, 3 images on something like this should do it just fine. It's not a high-dollar item. I wouldn't waste all that extra time on it. Get 3 good images, a front, a back, and then zoom in on one for the third image. And the zoom in is the one you want for the main one. So maybe, this one's a little different case just because, I might just use this one here as the main one. But again, you want what the back looks like. I know it may be blank and may seem like nothing, but you want what the back looks like. Photos about the right time. 1890s, 1910 is probably when this was made. Let's see here. This one here, this is not at Coney Island, just to let you know. It could be, but that Coney Island is referring to a hot dog. It's called a Coney. You can still order Coneys at Rudy's or some of these semi-national companies, Sonic or something. A Coney is a Coney dog. It's a Coney Island dog. It's not the place where it's at, just FYI. Blink lights. You could put, what I would put is roadside stand, car hop, signs. That's what I would put in there. I would not put as it's New York Coney Island because again, it's not. That's just a hot dog. Just FYI, and it's nothing. A lot of people wouldn't know that. I know it. I've run into this. We order Coneys. So anyway, let's move on here. Nothing wrong with the price or anything else either. Roadside stand and car hop is going to be what's going to sell, and that's why it says the lights behind her. If you see blink lights, it says right behind her. If you can see that, and that's why, because you'll blink and she'll come out to the car. So anyway, good. The price is fine. I would say I might have put $27.50 and just see what happens if I was listing that. Roadside stuff sells. Here's another one that I would list in. Go to collectibles, animals, cats, and then there's a Siamese cat section. I'm almost assuredly you're going to sell this better there. And I would have put the back side. I would do 3 images on this, front, back, and I would have probably even shown the inside on this. So front, back, and inside. It's a smaller one, so this is it's kind of hard to say on these smaller ones, but I would still most definitely put this in the animal section. I would keep the price and everything else. People who collect cat stuff love cat stuff. I've got a friend that's all she buys is cat everything. A Siamese cat, she'd buy it if it just had a Siamese. So again, there's a section that just are for animal lovers under the animal section. And you had a bunch of tins, and they all are reasonably priced. Is this one smaller too? I don't remember if you had the size. Yeah, I can picture the size on this one. This is more along the lines. Again, you don't need all these pictures. I would have probably narrowed it down to like 4, 5 at the most. And again, more description down here of what you do. Ask questions if you have any. I'll try to answer them all. I try to make everybody happy. Please contact us if you have an issue with any purchases you made. I'm always I want to make sure everybody's happy. That's the end of the result you want from this. So anyway, let's move on here. Now this is a little different. This is a pan view slide. These would have been bought in a strip at a sealed strip of plastic with them all stacked up, one on top of each other like a tall pyramid or like a tall elongated package. You're literally going to have like 10 of these in a row or 5 of these. These are cheap end ones. These are not technically a 35 millimeter slide. Yes, they are, but not exactly. And this one looks like it has turned red, which these are cheaper ones. These don't go for much at all. These are just a couple dollars, if even that. And that's for the entire strip of these. So I don't know if this one's worth listing. I would literally look into this because, again, this is like a tourist item, and anybody could buy these. These are mass-produced in major quantities for tourist trade, and that's it, nothing more. Not fine quality, not in good on. It's not even printed on good material. So there are maybe a few, like from Hong Kong, of these type that go for a good money, but Alaska in general, I doubt it's going to go for very much at all. And then again, price-wise, this is in the 2 to 3 ounces. You keep a uniformity across the board. That's what people. I've got a lot of comments on that from buyers and things like that. And I do surveys sometimes with buyers. You can ask them, if they do a survey, you'll give them free shipping, on it, or give them a voucher. They may never even come back to return that voucher to give you, to give them free shipping. But that's a good way to get information from people if you don't mind giving away the free shipping. I mean, again, if you've got your prices marked, it's not going to matter on a couple dollars in shipping. I don't do it all the time, but once in a blue moon, I'll do a couple surveys and just kind of get an idea on things. Especially if it's somebody who buys from me a lot, then you're not out anything because they're going to come back either way. So if you give them something, it's a bonus to them. That's usually the ones you want to hit up. And on this one here, nothing wrong with the item. One thing I can say, though, with vintage printer inks and stuff like this is different because this is film, but the ink cartridges that people buy and say, oh, I buy them all the time. True IT guys or IT women or whoever you are, if you're into IT, most people know that you don't use vintage ink cartridges because a lot of the times they dry up and they could damage the actual printer. I've bought vintage ones, or sealed ones from, a couple years out that might have been, even 5 or 10 years from my older printers. And I've had issues with half of them. And one of them actually dumped ink all over my drum, and I spent a long time cleaning it out. I never buy them like that. And this is years of doing this that I won't do it. And most anybody I know that does vintage or that would need something that's older than it's available that way will only buy the remanufactured one from like supermedia.com or something. That's where I buy mine from. It's cheaper than anywhere else. Again, that's not this specific item, but I'm just giving a call out because people do list that stuff too. And there's a high chance that they're not going to be usable when they're vintage, just to tell you. And most people just care about the money. You can put as is in there or not, but if it's not usable, you're going to end up getting that thing back. So I don't mess with ones that are older, truthfully. Just FYI, and I do pick up some, don't get me wrong, but I make sure they're new, the newer version of it, because otherwise I don't want returns. On something like this, though, you are going to sell these better as a lot. I can tell you right now. You can look up this exact thing. Just put in Panasonic ink film. That's all you got to type in. I've found many of them. They sell as a lot. I would put these all three together as like $27.50 or $34.50, and chances are you're going to get $25 for them pretty quickly compared to selling them one at a time. Just FYI, just because there's not a lot of people who buy these, they're not going to spend the extra money on shipping or anything else. They're not worth a ton of money, but if you sell them in a lot, you will sell them better. That is my honest, full-fledged opinion by looking at comps. I just did comps on this one. Didn't do comps on every one, but I did look up comps on some of these just so I can give you some better information on it. So again, I would list this as a lot, not as an individual, one each. I know people could make the offer and it's still equal, $8 a piece, but you're honestly going to sell it better just by comps alone. So FYI. This one here, I would not list in antiques and collectible books personally. I would list it either in historical by city, or I would list it in, and that's in collectibles, historical, and then there's city and towns, and that's where I would list it. Or I would list it in collectibles, and then travel, and then they've got it by state, and then I would put it in state in there. Those are the two categories of sections that I would list this at. Nothing wrong with the price. The price might even be a little too low for that matter. It's hard to say. I didn't do a search on this specific one. But some of these little booklets from small towns, parishes and things like that, sell well. Pilot Point is not a big town. I might have put $34.50 on it to start and see what happened. But I would have listed it in a different section, just FYI. Again, this is what I would do. I can't promise you that, there's going to be some magic results by this, but across the board, this is what I would do. Again, I would literally put some condition. I would put, please see photo for a better, more accurate idea on the condition. I literally try to put something else there. I would have showed front and back and then maybe opened. It's a small one too, so collectible item, again, I would put this in the animals, collectibles, animals, and then cats. It's a cute image, so somebody's going to want this. Everything else is fine. Price wise, yeah, it might cost 5 ounces or weigh 5 ounces to ship this, so that's very possible. Now you got marks on this one here. These do not look to be marks to me at all. I don't think these are marks at all. I don't see any characteristics of a marks in style or design. And you're looking for something specific on the bottom. So if they're not marks, they're not worth much at all. $9.99 best offer would probably be if they're not marks. And I don't think they're marks. If they are, you'd want to show the bottom of it, either showing the two little circular indentations that Marks has or showing the Marks logo on it. I'm not saying it wouldn't sell, but as a non-Marks item, that's what you're looking at. These are 1960s to 70s. These look like knockoffs from the late 60s, probably more like it 70s-ish. The horses may or may not go with these. It's hard to say, and they would have had saddles, which are all missing. It looks like they may not even technically go together. All of these, it's hard to say. But anyway, just look into that to make sure they're marks, because if they're not marks, you're wrongly listing those. And this one here I wouldn't list at this price. It's got a bad corner loss. These are like $2 or $3 cards at most. With that corner loss, you're going to be hard pressed to sell it. I would wait and get a few of these that are damaged like this and sell them together. I know this is quack and the whole works, but again, that's what I would do. And again, I try to put Victorian trade card at the end. And if you're listing it in the Victorian trade card, you're fine here. I literally just put it in the generalized section of Victorian trade card and don't worry about anything else other than that. And I would put quack in there. And you don't need the word advertisement because you're already in the advertising. So if they type in advertisement, even if you don't have it in there, it's going to show it because you're in the advertising section. And that's why I put Victorian trade card at the end, because I want the key stuff. This is late 1880s-ish probably when this was made too. So anyway. And again, what I'm talking about, this is generalized, so a lot of these will affect other listings too. So I'm just trying to put that all out there. This is what I would do. No offense, no anything else taken. This will just be the last one I want to touch on here. On this one, you got to show the back of these. They have to be able to see if it has the glue so you can iron these on or what the case may be. And the band of wings, you have to be able to show the back to know if it's a full-fledged wing or it's a promo. What they did in most airlines is they would give out wings to kids that were plastic, or sometimes they're metal, the earlier ones, but they're smaller size, and you can tell by the pin on the back that they're the kid version versus the adult version. So it's hard to tell by this. I'm guessing it is the freebie version of these wings. So anyway, and that will affect the price and across the board. So again, you need the back on these. 3 photos would have been fine. You could have taken, the same stacked image here, just flip over the patch and then put the wing flipped over on top of the patch just like you did here. So anyway, but that's about it. It's a good story, a lot of good stuff, a lot of good things to look at. Building up your inventory, I see too. You're going to the busy section, so, look over your listings again, I would say. Overall, you've got a pretty darn good bunch of listings here. This one here I would zoom into, as I said. It looks like a good image. You're just not, marketing it as well as you could be. And this one here, I don't know where this one's at. I'd put that in the Girl Scout section if you didn't. That's under collectibles, historic, and fraternal, and then Girl Scouts. Green buyer, that's not bad there. I'm not sure what they're going for these days. You might want to double check the price. But again, let me just flip through 1 or 2 more pages here and just see what I see. The pictures overall are very good. No real issues across the board. Nothing that's just shocking out that says, hey, this is wrong. I searched by highest to lowest, so your prices are really reasonable on a lot of these items here. Redwood, that's more along the lines on something like that. Let's see here. Vintage greeting card. Now, some of those Santa's ones, I pop on higher than that, just FYI. Like $17.50, that would be for me. Overall, yeah, there's not a lot to complain about. Like, if this one's damaged, you might put this in with some of the other ones and put quack. That's cologne, but still. But overall, yeah, it's a nice store you got here. A lot of good stuff. Reasonable prices across the board. Again, I talk about this in other videos too. It depends on what you can't or what you can find, what's available in your area, how well you can source. Do you have a source for the items to scale up on some of these? Your goal is to get higher and higher priced items so you can turn a bigger profit. Unless you're paying nothing for this model works great for a lot of people, including a lot of items I sell. I don't mind selling some for $10 if I got a quarter into it, and I've got 100 of them that I only paid a quarter for. So again, it's getting it cheap, but still relying on your research to get the best items pulled out of those cheap areas. So that's about what I have for you today. Don't get discouraged is one thing I can say. Everything takes time to know where you're at in your listing processes and what sells better. Like this may be a lot item only. I don't know. I haven't seen the specific title. So again, research that a little bit. It may be better to sell the lot and not run the fees for listing a bunch of them. You may sit on it for a little while, and what I would do is I'd pull all listings but one and just take some more pictures. That way I can just use relist option on that same listing and just change it, alter it. So, and if it's already listed and up, I'm not costing them any money on those. I try to list each issue magazine-wise, again, but I research them before I put them up. So I don't know where you're at on research. I don't know that magazine title. I would willing to bet there are some comps on it, though. So anyway, well, these look like rollout things, too. So just kind of watch out what you got there. Photos are a little dark on some of those. But again, I don't know where they are in your listing processes. So Hong Kong Blues. That's not a bad one there. I've sold this one before just because of the words Hong Kong. But what I would do is put the word China in the title as well, too. Definitely put China in that title. That will help it sell, believe it or not. But all in all, it's a decent store. A lot of these train magazines don't hold much value. Just keep that in mind. That would be something I would definitely put in a lot if I purchased it, like a dozen or so, or a year's worth or something along that line. But anyway, that's about what I have for you today. Again, I thank Mermaid Treasure for allowing us to do this. Hopefully that gives you some ideas and some thoughts on this. Again, no criticizing. This is literally just a business discussion here as far as I am concerned. I would have a boss sit down. He would sit at a table. He would have walked through my restaurant, my store, my facility, whatever the case may be, with a pad and pen and made notes throughout his visit. At the end of the visit, he sits down with you. This is what I did as well, too, when I went into a store that I was a regional over, and I would sit there and address these issues. This is what I'd like to see happen. These are some things you might want to look into. Some of the issues I bring up, I'll say it's up to that person to decide on what they think would be best based on their specific area. When I had many stores I was over, so each store had a different demographics or a different locale with different atmosphere, different shopping abilities, different shops around them which would draw business or distract from the business. So, there's different aspects to this. But this is what I have for you today. Again, thank you, Mermaid Treasure. Check out her store. She's got a lot of nice stuff in there. Again, I'll try to do another one of these as long as I still have some responses here. And hopefully people took something from this.
Well, there you go. There you have it. That's a critique. Again, nothing personal towards anybody or anything or any item. I'm not that way. I could care less about, getting into political or getting into personal attacks on anybody. It's not part of me. I don't really care what somebody else does, thinks, or believes. It's not part of the equation here. But if you're leaving negative feedback or negative comments about this person's store or me or anything else, it's just going to get filtered through and deleted instantly. I'm not going to play around and waste my time anymore on anything like that. I'd rather spend a few moments, making sure that somebody's not posting foul stuff on here, which does happen all the time. I get hate mail too, so, it's just, I guess, a fact. Was kind of surprised at first, but, I have very thick skin, as I've said, and I'm not going to worry about that. So, again, everything here that I've just discussed is business-oriented. It's what I personally would do. I can't say what you should do. That's going to be in your own thoughts and heads here. My things that I talk about doing are based on personal experience, things I've seen, research that I have done. So I'm not just throwing out some random, advice. This is advice that I've used and that it's honestly worked for me. I have worked for myself. My sales increase yearly. I'm not just blowing wind. This is literally how we've run our business and what I do. So that's what I have for you today. I'd like to thank Mermaid Treasures for allowing us to do this. Hopefully she learned something from it. Hopefully she gets something good out of this. Hopefully it helps her business and helps her expand. That is key. Again, we are going into fourth quarter, so please pay attention to what is going on now more than ever, because most of your income for your entire year could come from just fourth quarter, a good percentage of it. But anyway, that's what I have for you today. Hopefully you liked the video. If you did, please hit the like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified when we post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell a friend.